Hey guys, welcome back to the Mitt podcast, episode number 93. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about scaling, how to make anything big and to accomplish massive, massive things. Scaling doesn't happen unless you understand a formula. There's a formula for scaling anything, and it typically takes 4 different areas of any business or person to accomplish scale. Number 1 is people, 2 is tech, 3 is content, and 4 is advertising. 1 or all 4 of these things need to grow, and they need to be utilized for the business, the brand, the person to grow their audience and accomplish what they want. Now, you might be immediately thinking, well, Grant, I'm not an entrepreneur. Well, the first thing I want you guys to analyze is look at what are you doing now, or what do you want to do? And how do you, if you're listening to this podcast, you obviously want to grow as a person. How do you grow your business? Whether you're working for someone else, whether you're working in a specific industry, you're wanting to make a shift, or you guys run a successful business now. Scaling is the key to everything. In life, if you're not growing, you are dying. And a business constantly has to move forward. If you guys have ever watched the stock market closely, you know how important quarterly earnings are. And you know a company could have an incredible year, but if they miss on earnings, even if they have positive growth, sometimes you'll see stocks tank 10, 20, 30, and even 40% over a course of 1 to 2 days. Growth is the key to survival. So let's kind of talk about this in detail, right? Now, I'm going to give you guys a 3-step process to utilize for anything that you do to scale and grow what you're doing. But the first thing that I kind of want you guys to think about is changing the way you conceive action and why you do what you do as a leader in any aspect of business, whether you're a CEO, manager, whatever the case is. Time is the greatest asset. And the bulk of the world is paid based on their time, whether that's hourly or whether that's a salary or yearly salary wage. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has been paid for their time at some point in life. And I think it's something that someone should experience, not forever, but I think they should experience it. The biggest constraint to that is you have to work and spend more time, which is a limited finite resource, to make more money. So your growth is limited. Now, with that frame of thinking, what it also does is it causes people to kind of think in a small box. They're thinking in terms of how do I go from 100,000 to 120,000, or 220,000 in a year to 300,000, or from 40,000 to 80,000. We think in these small incremental jumps because when you look at the market, when you're getting paid for your time, that's usually how it works. And so really wealthy people, the reason why they are wealthy is because they either have an extremely high income skill and they invest it into assets, or they have equity into real estate, businesses, or anything that goes up in value or pays that investor in cash flow. It gets a return on investment. That's when you start seeing compounding of money, of resources, and of success. And while it's admirable to work really, really hard, everyone has the same 24 hours, but different people have different outputs. So let me give you an example. Yes, I'm sure you guys have heard the saying, oh, Beyonce has the same 24 hours as you, work harder. No, Beyonce doesn't have the same 24 hours. She does as an individual, but Beyonce likely has a full staff that cooks dinner, lunch, breakfast, everything. She has a private jets with pilots that can fly her from any single point. She has drivers. She has a media team. She has a full accounting team. She has PR people, marketing people. She probably has, not even counting anything that she does on any tour or any business that she invests in, but for Beyonce Inc., for all the things that she does, I bet you she has over 1,000 hours a day of output. So her just living her life, her leverage and output is so much greater than anybody else. I learned this early on as an entrepreneur because I went from someone that was just starting side hustles, being young in my teens and early in 18, 19 years old, to being in sales and making 6 figures. And it was great. until I realized that 6 figures isn't as much as I thought it was, 120, 130 grand. And then I learned leverage and how to get more output out of what I was doing. And I realized, this was like the first level, is it's going to take more salespeople on my team. I can only be so good. Because what happened is I was in sales, I became a sales manager, and I lost my entire sales team. Longer story, it's on one of my other podcast episodes of how I rebuilt it, and it's a great story. You guys will probably like it. But what I learned is I then doubled my closing percentage and mastered sales, which was an incredible experience because I learned persuasion at the highest level. There was less than 1% is too many for how many people that was in my specific industry closing at the level at which I was. So much so that at the time, the CEO at the company had to go check and call every customer because they thought I was faking my numbers. They were so good. They'd never seen anything like it. I was in pure survival mode and I did really well. But what I realized is even with me performing at the highest level in my entire industry, even five sales reps who were mediocre could beat me, which meant that I needed people to grow. And that was one of the first sections of scaling. I needed other resources to reach a massive amount of people and close a high level of revenue. And so then I built up my team and hired and scaled people all over the country, started my own business and have done really, really well. And we've done business in 15 states all across the United States. Now, that happened because of these 4 things: people, tech, content, and advertising. I had to be proficient in all of these things in all of the areas surrounding those 4 items. And when I did, I started producing massive output to where in the last 2 years, my business has grown, not counting social media. I'm talking about just what I normally do on a day-to-day basis, has grown almost 300%. That is due to learning these things and understanding output versus working really, really hard. I can't run 1 million appointments in a day, but I can hire enough people that can. And that's how you have to start thinking if you want to achieve scale. So let's go through how to do this and thinking in simple terms, right? If you're an individual sales rep and you can run 3 appointments, and as I'm talking, I'm going to literally do the math right in front of you. If you're an individual sales rep and you're a top performer, and you can only run 3 appointments in a day because they're about 2 hours apiece plus about 30 to 60 minutes of driving time in between them. Okay, so 3 appointments a day, and let's say you only work the weekdays. So 3 times 5 times 4. Okay, so if this is the case, this individual can run 60 appointments per month, right? Let's say that equates to 10 deals. Say 10 deals, and I'll just give you an example for my industry. Deals are anywhere between $30,000 to $40,000. So that's about $300,000 to $400,000 in revenue, give or take, right? And that's a high performer. So if you want to achieve scale, you're going to need to have more appointments for these sales reps. You're going to have to be proficient in recruiting and training and hiring and managing them the right way. And you're going to have to get them into just as many or more appointments. So now let's say instead you have 25 people. This is how you start creating scale that run 3 appointments a day. That's 75 appointments per day times 5 times 4, 1,500 appointments. Think about that. Think how much of a massive jump that is. And so, and you close 10% of that, it's 150 deals. So you went from 10 to 150 deals just by multiplying the people, while also multiplying your advertising and content to attract more appointments, close more deals. And then you also had the tech on the back end to support everything from a CRM standpoint, lead generation standpoint, communication, scheduling, everything. So you have to think in that capacity. That's a very, very small basic example of like how to simply think on scale. The next thing is leveraging your time the right way. When I meet people, because if you listen to my podcast, you know exactly the things I do. You know I'm an entrepreneur, but a lot of people that just see my videos pop up, they just assume I'm like this podcast guy and I have a social media. And then when they look into me, they find out that I'm really just an entrepreneur that makes some content on the side, right? And so when I started making content, it started kind of catching on and people really started liking it. I was like, man, like this is going to potentially take up a lot of my time. How do I do this in a really efficient way? And what I started doing, especially for my podcast, is I record my podcast. These are 20-minute episodes, give or take. I do this once a week. So not only do I record 1 to 2 podcasts in an hour each week, and then these short clips that I do are filmed in 5 minutes a day off the top of my head. I hired an editor to do all of my editing. Then I spend, for all of my content, about an hour and a half per week for millions and millions of views per week. So people assume I'm doing the editing, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I don't even know how to edit. But what's great about achieving scale at anything is you have to think about what thing can you do that requires the least amount of time but generates the most output. Focus on output, not production, like being busy and doing lots of things. What creates massive output and who can help you achieve it? So all I do when I'm done with this, the podcast studio is going to send the email to myself, and they're going to also CC my editor. My editor will have this done within about 24 hours, and we'll have it uploaded, posted, everything. They'll ask me if I have any questions, and it'll be out, and it'll be on all different platforms. And then once or twice per day, I'll have short clips from this podcast that will go out on 10 different TikToks that they're putting out that I'm not even touching. And then we'll upload on, and then I'll upload, which takes no time at all, on my Instagram, and the rest will be handled. That's all it does. I don't have to do anything else. I can post some stories randomly throughout my day if I want to, but I'm taking about 2 hours, and let's say with me posting it and scrolling, let's just say that's 3 hours. 2 to 3 hours outputs millions and millions of views that is constantly churning every single day consistently. As I'm sitting here, more and more people are seeing this content being helped out. But I'm talking to you, and that's still growing. That's the content piece. So see how I'm leveraging my time to create massive output. People assume I spend 20 to 40 hours a week on all of these things. And it's like something I do on the side that's very easy. And the topics that I'm discussing with you guys, I don't have to Google a bunch of stuff to figure it out. I could come up with the title 2 minutes before I walk in here, because all the things I'm talking to you guys about, I'm living. It's really easy for me because I'm proficient in it. I've spent decades learning and practicing these things. And that's how you have to kind of look at time so you can think the right way. All right. So let's talk about this 3-step process. So how you can implement and start taking a look at yourself, your business, on how you can be super efficient, but also create scale and grow at whatever you want to do. Okay. So number 1, what area of your life and business do you spend tons of time doing that doesn't actually grow your business or generate revenue? I'm gonna give you a couple examples for your personal life or just normal family life, and I'm also gonna give you examples for your business. For your personal life, it could be going to the grocery store. It could be picking up, and some of you guys, you love picking up your kids and it's part of time. If that's the case, pick them up. Cooking. It could be, mowing your lawn. It could be painting something in your house, fixing something in your house. Let's say you buy a TV, spending 4 hours trying to hang up the TV. These are all things that you can leverage to other people. I'll give you a simple example. If you ever need to hang up paintings or pictures or TVs or have a small problem in your house that you won't fix, there's this app in the United States called TaskRabbit, and you pay people $50 to $70 an hour, and they'll do it faster. They know what they're doing, and they'll get it done like this, and you don't have to lift a finger. Simple, right? No one here that is trying to make 6 to 7 figures, or 8 or 9 or 10, should be mowing their lawn or should actively be spending time cooking unless you just absolutely love it and it's a passion thing for you. If you're a full-time entrepreneur. If you listen to this for more motivation and you're cutting down costs, that's different. Completely understand. Okay. So you could either hire a chef to come if you have the money for it. You can get pre-made meals that you could do, Or you can find a way, if you have a spouse, maybe they can do it as well. But if your number one focus is growth, you want to make sure you're not spending your time on things that don't drive revenue. When it comes to the grocery store, I just showed this to my mom. I showed it to my dad as well. There's, for example, this huge grocery store in Texas called H-E-B that's amazing. If you guys haven't had it or went there, it's incredible. But they have an app where you order everything that you want. So your entire grocery list, you can look through everything, and they will actually deliver it right to your front doorstep. So let's say right now you guys are out of town and you're going to be back tomorrow, and let's just say it's a Sunday at 5 p.m. You could have your groceries delivered at 5:30 p.m. and it'll be sitting right at your door, and it's only going to cost about $10 to $15 more than you want to spend. But you get back 2 hours of time that you would spend in the grocery store. See how I just leveraged somebody else's time? This is not even counting a business. So we have to think about, if time is actually our greatest asset, we need to leverage other people that are great at those things or proficient at them and delegate those tasks to them. It's beneficial to the economy. It's beneficial for them. They're making money. That's great for them. But the key is redirecting that same time towards your business, towards your happiness, towards your family, or towards to just simply growth. I learned this early on in my first year running my business. That first year, I was running around like a chicken with no head. I was doing everything. I was running operations. I was handling lead gen. I was a number one person in sales. I was running the sales training. I was doing the interviews for recruiting. I handled all the PR and marketing. I mean, if there was a piece of that business, I was involved in it in some capacity. And my first true hire, besides my assistant, was an operations manager that helped run all of our back-end ops and project management. Solar projects are a lot of work. It is a full-blown construction project that takes 30 days is a miracle. They say, 30 to install. It doesn't happen in my industry. It does, but it's rare. But they're averaging 60 to 120 days, and there is nothing but problems. So I was spending about 25 to 30 hours a week, and this is me just going like this, missing things, not performing as I should. I delegated to someone else who specialized it. Not only did I get those hours back, I could focus all my energy on growing my business. So what I want you guys to look at from a business perspective is, what task do you currently do that isn't your specialty, that's needed in the business, but doesn't help you grow? This could be recruiting. This could be administrative tasks, scheduling. This could be replying to inquiries. This could be scheduling appointments. This could be training people. What do you do now that could be delegated to someone else? And the first thing I'll tell you before I break down how to do this efficiently is, you have to scale. No one will do it like you. No one will do it like you if it's your business. But if you hire the best of the best and you have good processes and standard operating procedures, you can scale this efficiently. And sometimes you might just find, the unicorn that's fantastic and does it as good or better than yourself. So the first way to do this very efficiently and for a lot less money is, there's virtual assistants, people that work all across the world that aren't in first world countries, but because of the difference in currency, even though you're paying them a lower wage for United States standards, because of the currency difference, they're actually making much more than the bulk of the people in their country. And they're fantastic. They work hard. They show up. They leave their problems at home. They come here and they execute, and they're fantastic. So much so that when I started hiring virtual assistants, I started firing people that were making 10 times what they were making in the United States, that weren't as good as them. They worked harder, they were focused, and I was able to delegate a lot of the administrative tasks that was better for them to handle because they're proficient at it and they're great at it, but I could focus on actually running and growing and strategizing for the business to help it grow. So what you can do is write out, I made a YouTube video about this, you guys can listen to that part in detail, but write out everything that you do that doesn't generate revenue. Right, like 1 to 10 or whatever, however many things there are. And to the right of it, put how many hours you spend a week. And anytime I do this exercise with an entrepreneur, we'll find out that they're spending on the low end 10 to 15 hours. And on the high end, I've seen even 40 to 50 hours a week on things that don't even bring revenue into the business. And all we'll do is we'll find them a virtual assistant, which you guys can use. Just Google like virtual assistants, hiring virtual assistants. There's tons of agencies that do this for you. And you can hire them, and it's super inexpensive. You create a standard operating procedure, which is essentially a manual for that job and for that role. And then when they come in, you hire and train them. They shadow you for a week. You give them these SOPs. You train them. You meet once a week, and you go over key performance indicators, and you make sure they're doing everything, and everything will start moving efficiently. I was talking to an entrepreneur lately, and I had her do this, and she started implementing. She's like, Grant, it feels like I have an entire new company. This was just one hire. She's like, everything is different. I feel better. I'm more energized. I'm more focused. I'm getting more things done. And my business is growing. And we haven't even talked about marketing and advertising or sales process, anything, because she now has so much time, 20, 30 hours back, that she can redistribute towards an area of her business that can help you grow. So that is the key. It's very simple, but you want to do it as fast as possible. $200 a week can save you 30 hours or more that can help you grow your business. And I can tell you, when I did this, my business tripled over the course of about a year and a half. Okay. Number 2, what is your greatest hindrance of growth? All right. Remember, we talked about the 4 areas that you need to scale: people, tech, content, and advertising. What area, let's assume that you have everything delegated pretty solidly. What is the biggest hindrance of your business growing at a 5 or 10x rate? When I ask you that question, I want you to think of the first initial objections that appear. This may be, well, not enough people know about me. Okay, so that's advertising and content. You could go, well, I need more sales reps. Okay, well, there you go. You need to solve that problem. And then you go, well, I'm not great at recruiting. Okay, now you got to learn recruiting. All right, well, we need more locations, and we're a brick and mortar company that has a storefront. Okay, well, we need more storefronts. So when I ask you this question, you should initially say the objections and why you can't do them or why it's difficult for your business. Those answers are the problems that you need to solve. Now, when you're trying to solve them, you want to think in first principles. If you want to know more about first principles, scroll down after this podcast and find the one where I'm talking about first principles. I think it was 3 or 4 episodes ago. But think things simple. If you're like, I need more people and I lack recruiting skills, simply go learn it. Go on YouTube and search how to become a great recruiter. Join some type of community or coaching where they discuss this. Find some course that's super inexpensive or podcast. I guarantee there's a free podcast on recruiting. And go learn it. And then figure out a job board. Figure out how many people. Figure out all these different things and just keep solving for X, the problem that presents itself, and work backwards. And suddenly you will solve that problem. So it's plug and play when it comes to this, but you have to double down on everything you're doing. I'll give you an example. I was talking to some younger entrepreneurs. I was on their podcast, and hopefully it'll be out soon, but they were asking me about scale. They were asking me about social media, and they're like, man, yeah, you've blown up on social media, this, that, and the other. And I started kind of breaking down, strategies and how I did it. And I said, yeah, I actually have a spreadsheet that I've used for the last 2 years that tracks every single amount of followers that I have on every single social media site, the percentage of growth, the amount of people that it grew, and different issues and things that I'm running into. It's a whole spreadsheet. So at any moment I can pull it up and I go, okay, in January of 2023, I had this many followers, I had this many followers. And when I told them this, they're like, what? They couldn't believe that I had this. And what I told them is, what you do not measure cannot improve. Imagine watching NBA basketball and we just kind of play for 90 minutes and we all kind of guess who won. Well, it makes sense, right? We know every statistic, every assist, every point, every foul, every steal. We know every single moving detail. This is how you improve as a business owner. And so when it comes to business, on sales, on numbers, on customer acquisition, on lifetime value of a customer, on advertising costs, cost per lead, cost per appointment, all of these things, cost per pitch, all of these things, I have spreadsheets available where I'm getting sent data and I know exactly what to do, so I know how to make decisions for my business. The first 6 months of my business, I didn't have any of this. And even with us doing really good, I didn't really know how good people were doing. And within 60 days of getting these things, I ended up firing people, hiring new people, changing this, changing that, and making more clear decisions. So it's important to know these things. All right, number 3. What is your business formula for growth? I had a YouTube video about this. It's great. But there's a simple formula of scale. And there's 2 things that you need to figure out. There's a lot more other details, but I'm going to kind of paint the picture on those so you can plug and play in your business. Number 1, CAC to LTV ratio, which is customer acquisition costs to lifetime value. Customer acquisition is how much it costs to acquire one customer. This is advertising costs, this is commission, this is tech costs, this is salaries. How much money do you have to spend as a business to get one customer to pay you? And then lifetime value is how much is that customer going to pay you over their lifetime, right? And then you're figuring out that ratio. So if it costs $100 to acquire a customer all in, and that customer is going to pay you $1,000 over their lifetime, that is a 1 to 10 ratio, meaning if I spend $1, I get $10 back. I spend $1,000, I get $10,000 back. I spend $1 million, I get $10 million back. And so based off of that formula, I have to build my entire operation around that to support it, which means if you're a heavy sales-based company, you have to think about how many sales reps do you need to fulfill that type of volume? What is their average amount of deals? How many appointments can they handle? How many leads can they call? All those things you have to think through. When it talks about ads, how much do you have to spend to do that? How many different sites do you need to use? How many people do you need to have that can manage your ad buy, the marketing, everything? How do they do that? When it comes from a management standpoint, if you're going to double, triple, quadruple the amount of sales side that you have in your business, how many people do you need to manage it? What systems do you need to have in place? What tech do you need to support it? You see how I'm just going down the line. I'm looking at a very simple problem, CAC to LTV ratio, which you have to figure out for your business. And maybe it's all organic now, but you eventually get into advertising. And then you just work backwards and solve and build out that machine that it will take to support your scaling goals. Scaling is a formula, and you have to reach more people. I'll give you an example, a simple example that has nothing to do with even advertising. When I was looking at my social media, my TikTok had grown quite a bit, but my Instagram wasn't growing. And so the first thing that I did is I looked at, okay, who is in my specific niche and is doing really, really well? How many times, how many reels, and how many times are they posting on Instagram? Well, first I looked for myself. Reels, I was only posting 1 to 4 a week. Heck, at one point, the most I think I ever done in a week was like 5, and that was it. And then I looked at other people, and they were posting 1 to 3 times per day. I was like, well, that's a clear difference. And I looked at the editing, I looked at the presentation. So I immediately improved the image, the editing, all those different things. And then all I did is I started posting 2 reels per day, 7 days per week on every single different platform. And within 10 months, I went from total of 238,000 followers across all platforms to over 1 million. Like that. The only thing I changed was I improved the quality, and then I increased the quantity of clips that I was posting, and the rest took care of itself. So sometimes it just takes doing more of the action. I talked to someone and they're like, well, I've just had so much problem hiring for this position, and it just hasn't really done well. And I said, well, how many people have you interviewed? And she said, 3. I'm like, well, no shit. If you only interview 3 people, you're never going to find the right person. You might get lucky once, but sometimes we're just simply underestimating what it actually takes to scale. I was in a sales meeting once, and one of our sales reps, we're not a traditionally door-to-door company in the solar side, but he started crushing it in door-to-door. So we're like, this is amazing. This guy's killing it. He was leading in sales, and we said, hey, so, can you tell us what's working for you? Like, you're killing it in door-to-door. And even I was I was like, man, I want to find out what's working for this guy, because I had done door-to-door, and he was killing it. And everyone's kind of at the edge of the seat waiting, and he goes, well, I get there right after the meeting, start at 10:30, and then I knock till about 8:30 at night. And they're like, how many doors you knock on? He says like some crazy number. And we're like, what if you don't hit this? He's like, well, I just keep knocking till I do. And you could see like everyone's kind of like, damn. Because we were all expecting this cool inside secret tactic that nobody knows about. And suddenly he's just like, I work my ass off is basically the answer. And so everyone else that was door knocking was doing it for 60 minutes, 75 minutes and leaving. And the guy that was leading in sales making 50 plus grand a month was doing it all day long. The only difference was quantity. It was effort. And so sometimes it's just that simple, but you just have to start thinking big. So I hope you guys love this podcast on scaling and how you can implement your business. As always, you guys can find me on all my social media channels at Grant Mitt. Make sure also, guys, to check out my YouTube channel. I'm doing a series right now where I'm doing 7 videos straight, one a day, where I'm doing anywhere between 5 to 15-minute videos on topics similar to this, but a little bit different, which you guys will absolutely enjoy. So hope you guys have an incredible week, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks, guys.